And now the end is near.
On behalf of Rick's family, of course, I want to extend their gratitude and their welcome to you for taking this time aside to honor Rick with your presence. There's nothing more important that you could have done than simply be here today and stand with him as we recall and celebrate his life. When those who are dear to us, those whom we love, those whom we esteem, pass, it's quite natural for a whole flood of memories to come out. And those memories, in a very real sense, are the inheritance they leave to you, what they've meant to you. In high school, there's that tradition where you write in somebody's yearbook and they write in yours, and then you read their thoughts years later. And Rick has written in many of your lives. And we're here today to, from a variety of perspectives, to look at his life and to lift him up and honor the kind of life he lived. It's also the case when you set this kind of time aside, you have an opportunity to, what we call, go through the process of grieving. And that is simply where we replace the sadness of that person's absence with a growing sense of gratitude for what they've meant to us in the course of their life and the place that they've played in our life. Well, it's certainly true that the proper focus of the celebration and this celebration is going to be on Rick's life. As a physician and as what I'm told is a very thoughtful person, a reflective person, I don't think he would want to confuse the celebration with a collective attempt to whistle by the graveyard, so to speak, especially from this current vantage point. And so a gathering like this is also properly an occasion to simply take stock of our own soul, take stock of our own life before our Creator, to remember that we each have a finite number of beats to our heart. Our chest will rise and fall a finite number of times. And that life is not a brief episode between two oblivions. That what we are, what we've become, what we have finally determined to be the meaning of life is what we carry with us as a kind of a resume to the next life. So this is a time to both celebrate, but also to be reflective yourself, as reflective as Rick would have been on this very occasion. I'm going to open in prayer, and if you'll look at your bulletin for just a moment. This is kind of I said to somebody, it says eulogy at the bottom, but this is more of a eulogy by committee, and that there are a lot of people who wanted to share. And so there'll be a lot of vantage points, both from family and friends, colleagues, people who knew him, and you will have a large view of his life at the end of the service. And at the conclusion of the service, you're invited to linger over lunch. There's some libations set out for you. And also there's a special room in the back where a tribute video has been put together of Rick's life. And so you're invited to sit on it and take a view of that as well. But I want to open with a word of prayer, and then I'll invite the first person forward, and we can begin a time of reflection. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, this difficult crossing, this passage of life to death, to life eternal, is not foreign or strange to your understanding. Because in sending your Son, Jesus Christ, you have embraced all that life can send upon any man or woman. Anything that we can be assailed by or lifted by, you've experienced. And you can offer comfort, because you have tasted life as we taste it. You can offer hope to the heart that would otherwise worry itself in sorrow, because your Son was a man of sorrows and well acquainted with grief. And so, Lord, I call you to comfort those who mourn. And when mourning is complete, I pray you wipe away every year. We pray this in your Son's name. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sister Bridget McCarthy. I'm a sister of Mercy, and I'm pleased to to represent the Sisters of Mercy, Dignity Health and Mercy Foundation here this morning. First, let me extend our deepest sympathy and prayers to Julie, to Rick's children, grandchildren, and of course, to Mary, whom we have known and loved for a long time. In addition to Rick's responsibilities as a physician leader, as the medical director of the nuclear medicine department at Mercy General Hospital for many years, he also served on the board of trustees of Mercy Foundation for 20 years, and he served as chairman from 1990 to 1993. It was in this capacity that so many of the sisters got to know Rick and developed great friendships. Even the sisters who did not work in healthcare became his friends. He was a wonderful advocate for the work of the Sisters of Mercy. So whether it was healthcare, or whether it was affordable housing, or care for the poor or disenfranchised, Rick was a donor, and a generous donor, and he inspired philanthropy in his way of getting others to also donate to various causes. We have many fond memories of our association with Rick, which we treasure. And one example of that is he took 4 of us out on a Sunday morning to Sunday morning brunch on his boat on the Sacramento River. It was a lovely May morning, and lunch was beautifully packaged and prepared for us. And the whole experience was just pretty classy. But then Rick was a pretty classy guy. And to demonstrate that, 1 week later, he presented each one of us with a t-shirt which displayed a picture which he had taken of us on deck. So a wonderful memory that we have of him. This past week, I asked a few of our sisters what they think of, what are the attributes that they remember about Rick. So I heard words like affable, serene, always had a smile, a gentleman, and a great sense of humor. So our lives have certainly been enriched by Rick's friendship and his generosity. And in the words of the poet, we remember him, which I would like to now share with you. In the rising of the sun and in the going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of the winter, we will remember him. In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. In the blueness of the sky and the warmth of the summer, we will remember him. In the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. In the beginning of the year and in its end, we will remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now part of us. We will remember him.
Hi everybody, my name is Kelly DeLacio. I'm Judy's daughter and I'm Rick's stepdaughter. I'm not a very good public speaker, but I'd like to read a poem that my husband and I heard for the first time about 2 weeks ago. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came her date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all is the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved her know what little time that line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, be less quick to anger and show more appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that the special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash?
Hi. Hard to do both ways. Can't see you.
Mike, yeah.
Thank you. Work now? Okay. I want to thank all of you for coming. It's heartwarming to see all of his friends and people here today. This would make him happy. We're here today to celebrate the life of Dr. Richard Myers. You may ask why this venue. Well, it's because it's what Rick wanted. And as always, Judy's carrying out his wishes. In many ways, Rick's personal life was a celebration. He was happiest when he was around people. Many of us can visualize Rick shuffling through this crowd, stopping with a cocktail in his hand, and every 3 feet talking to somebody. Or even just as likely, he'd be over in that corner and everyone would be coming to him. He was holding court because he was the guy at a party you wanted to talk to. Rick had a unique capacity to engage people. When he spoke to you, it felt like you were the only person in the world, and you were alone with him. He listened and he cared. As you know, Rick loved to party. He celebrated life every day. What I'd like you to know is he was just as happy Sunday morning, reading the paper with Judy in bed. Being on the back deck out there, the house, just the four of us. Rick, Judy, Patty, my wife and I, talking about nothing, debating nothing, just being there. He loved his boat. He loved people. He loved to go to lunch with Doug and Kelly. Not that he ever ate anything, by the way. I always waited to order till he was done, so I knew what I was going to have for lunch. He loved those days, and he loved every day of his life. Rick Myers really had two loves in his life. He loved all this, but his real love was medicine. And I'm going to tell you a little about that. Most of you knew he was a doctor, but not very many people knew what he did or how he did it. He didn't talk about that part of his life to very many people. But I was there, and I can tell you, Dr. Richard Myers was a well-respected, nationally known nuclear medicine physician, a scientist, a pioneer, and a thought leader in many aspects of nuclear medicine. Dr. Myers was an expert because he worked at it. He earned it. He was a voracious reader. He would read everything ever made, everything about nuclear medicine, everything about what he did. He listened to other people. He formed his opinions. And eventually he traveled all over the United States and different parts of the world and told people about his thoughts and his experiences. With the help of many people at ADAC, where I work, and Radiology Associates in Sacramento, which is where Rick was a partner, we managed to change the business and change the face of medicine, truly. Many of you know what nuclear cardiology is, or have had studied and know what it was. But Rick was a pioneer. He was one of the people who helped create how nuclear medicine for cardiology actually is a study of how your heart works. Rick was one of those pioneers who developed that and learned how to make it work and made it better. So how we do it today was a product of what his life was about. Later on, when I knew him, he was working with positron emission tomography, that today is known as PET. But back then, 20 years ago, it was very difficult to do and very hard, and it was more of an art than a science. It really was very difficult to use. Rick and the people at Radiology Associates, people at ADAC, helped make that a machine where the average doctor could look at it and know he was making a good diagnosis. Rick and those people changed the face of medicine as we know it today, saved countless lives, and made better for many, many people. When I first met Rick, my impressions were weird and curious. In a few minutes, you knew he was smart. There was no doubt about that. He lacked ego. He was a doctor, but unlike many, many other doctors I knew over the years, that was my business. He was a tall man, but he wasn't imposing. He was so calm, so quiet, so peaceful. I often wondered if, in life, how he got along. That people walked over top of him. It just made me curious. At his core, Rick was really just a good old boy from Texas. There ain't doubt about that. He never made a decision without thinking about it first. He made Judy and me crazy. He was the slowest man I ever knew. It took him forever to go from point A to point B. We'd be going to a restaurant, and we'd be walking along, and where's Ricky? He never knew a stranger. He was in the parking lot talking to the parking attendant or the hat check girl. He made, if Judy said, "Come on, Ricky," or "We got to go," one time, she said it a million in the last 10 years. My first impressions of Rick were not at all what he turned out to be as I got to know him. Rick, more than anyone else I ever knew, had this internal confidence, self-assurance, belief in his own convictions and how to do things the right way. He always did that. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He would outthink you, outwit you. If he had to, he'd outwit you. And if all else failed, he would negotiate. But he almost always got what he wanted in his own quiet, non-confrontational way. That was Rick. I thought about it a lot, but I can't tell you when our professional relationship turned into a mutual one. My guess it was during what I call the lizard period. That's the time between the two goodbyes. I am what I am. After that, Rick, Judy, Patty, and I, we spent all our time, numerous trips, excursions, all kinds of things. Just enjoying each other's company. For those of us who were around in the last year, it was excruciating to watch, painful, to watch him become weak and tired. We might not have liked his decisions, but like even in passing, Rick did it his way. He did not want to be a patient, coddled, poked, prodded. He made a conscious decision to let nature take its course. When he was finally forced to go to the hospital, we learned that Rick's heart only worked at 20%. He never complained, never said, "Why me?" In hindsight, I have to admire what strength, commitment, and fortitude it took for him to get up every day, just to walk across the fall, to be himself, to be happy, and to live each and every day the best he could, as long as he could. I know this to be true because one morning a couple of months ago, I was on the back deck. Rick was on the back deck. He was having a particularly bad day. He was in pain, and he was kind of bent over, hunched over in the backyard. And I said, Rick, you gotta go see a doctor. And he said, I quote, he said, I am a doctor. And I pressed him. I said, Rick, if you don't go see a doctor, you're gonna die. And he's all bent over, and he's like this, and he puts that famous arm up and goes, "C'est la vie." Well, now he pissed me off. He really pissed me off. And I'm angry. So I'm pressing him. I said, damn it, Rick, what do you want me to tell people at your funeral? This is your funeral. What do you want me to say? I'm stomping around the backyard like I always am, flashing. And he stopped me in my tracks. I know he was talking to me, but it felt like he was talking from his heart to my heart. It was just him. Instantly, I understood. And he was in peace with the situation. His acceptance helped me relieve the anger I felt, the pain I felt. And made it so I could enjoy the last days with him joyfully and gleefully. His words were so him that I had to leave. I went home and I wrote them down because they were so powerful to me. He was in pain, and in that instant, he just got calm. He sat back and he turned and he looked at me. And looked directly into my eyes and said, Ed, and I quote, "Tell them that I'm satisfied with my life and my accomplishments." I quote, "Tell them that I'm thankful for the love of Judy Myers and how wonderful our lives were together. Tell them that I love my children. I may not have shown them love in the way they expected, nor was I a perfect father, but I'm fiercely proud, not just of their accomplishments, but who they are as people, and what they've become. I love them more than my own life," unquote. Rick Myers was the most compassionate, and loving man I ever knew. He wore that love on his sleeve. Never afraid to express love. He wasn't. And he surrounded himself with people who were like that. Judy, Doug, Kelly, they're lovers. Like Rick, they kiss you, they hug you, they tell you repeatedly that they love you. And in my life, except for my wonderful, beautiful wife, that was an exception, is an exception. And they made me a more loving and caring person. In life, we have family who we love innately, good or bad. We have lots of acquaintances, friends, and people we like. But if you're lucky, there's a special person in my life too, who for whatever reason make that difference in your life. Someone you like being around, someone who knows the best and the worst of you, who knows your deepest fears and accepts them, and accepts you as you are without judgment. For me, that was Rick Myers.
it on? I'm Mike Myers. I'm Rick's cousin from Dallas. I would like to read excerpts of the letter I wrote to the family. And it's got a bit of a soft news week, so bear with me a moment on this. One morning in August of 1953, the Eli Myers family in Dallas drove to Denton in an unair-conditioned two-door Ford sedan, with me and my two sisters crowded in the hot back seat. We drove around the county square with the gray limestone courthouse and turned west to the old Myers homestead and pump yard at Avenue C in Maple, the family gathering place for the funeral of our late grandmother. A milk delivery truck stopped alongside, as either my father, his driver, or my dad, as either his driver or my dad recognized each other. The milk truck driver had an ambitious assistant. He was standing on a pair of wooden milk bottle crates, and his hands grasped what looked like the helm of an ocean-going ship. He smiled at us triumphantly. I think he had a smirk at me. Then he turned back to the road in its appointed rounds. From the crowded back seat of the Ford, I shot a Flash Gordon death ray stare at my 9-year-old uppity cousin from the rural boonies of 1962 and proudly drove identical 62 Chevrolet Impalas. Rick enrolled in summer school at SMU in Dallas, and we got together for double dates and underage beer consumption. He drove a Mrs. Baird's bread truck as a summer job.
Yes, it was mine.